Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so this is leftover things from the last episode that we wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And in the last episode I brought up an account that was in Corona, and I didn't realize that was Riverside County, where you used to live in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we looked up some more stuff there.
Yeah. Do you want to start?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
I found an account. You probably came across it too. It's a really bizarre account called the Casablanca Entities, and it was from August 22nd, 1955.
Cool.
And it appears in a book called Close Encounter at Kelly and Others of 1955. And then a podcast, Kryptonaut, did a whole bunch of stuff on it. They covered it, I think.
Yeah.
They wrote a great article. If you look it up, you'll see their article. All right, so it's August 22nd, 1955 in California, in Riverside County, California. And a group of boys were playing outside, and they were like wrestling in the yard and being boys.
Yeah.
And one boy noticed a strange object hovering. And the kids stopped playing and looked. And it was a translucent dome-like structure. And it vanished, and they heard a ping sound. And then another disc appeared. And then orbs, round, like, and the size of basketballs, in different colors, red, blue, orange, silver. And they kept vanishing and reappearing. And they made a ping sound. And so they ran inside to tell their parents. And of course, when the adults came out, they didn't see anything, That's great. I love that part.
Yeah.
They're like, what's wrong with you kids? And
That's the most infuriating feeling too. It's like,
right, like, you gotta believe me.
yeah, I swear.
So they reappeared after the adults were gone. And one orb landed in a football field. And then they saw this being. And it's so bizarre. Right? It was translucent with a big red mouth, big red eyes, and 4 round objects that look like diamonds where the nose should be. That's so fucking
Wow.
bizarre. It's like, that's so bizarre. But and it didn't have legs. The body kind of tapered off like a worm, that
Oh
kind of.
God. Yeah.
And it wore, everybody, and it wore a belt with a disc-shaped mirrored buckle.
Wow.
It was like a disco creature or something. I don't fucking know. And then one boy became transfixed and started approaching the object. But 2 older boys kind of grabbed him and stopped him. And
Yeah.
then all hell broke loose. UFOs descended. They descended from the sky. They landed on a rooftop. Branches were knocked off trees. And they even saw like a child-sized disembodied arm beckoning them. That's bizarre too. I don't know what that is.
Wow.
That's like the tarot cards, right? Like
Yeah.
like that image. Oh, and another boy saw a strange man in the field with like some kind of gun that was zapping, that had like a ray gun or some kind of gun that was like freezing people. Okay.
Jesus.
And then the craft opened, I guess, its door, and out floated this creature, which was like the other creature, the one with the red eyes and mouth and the diamonds and stuff.
Yeah.
Except, and they said it floated, except it had 4 arms and 4 legs, kind of like tentacles.
Right.
And it was satiny white in color. I love, I
Wow.
love, they're like very fashionable creatures. And one boy said it spoke to him and told him to climb the tree and they would pick him up in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And he and another boy who was also entranced climbed the tree, and the UFO did approach, and little men climbed out to try to reach for them, to get them. But their panicked friends grabbed a hose and sprayed it at them. They're trying to fight off these creatures
Oh my God.
with the garden hose.
Uh,
And that worked because one boy kind of came back too, or whatever, wasn't transfixed. But Ronnie Strickland, the other boy, remained in his daze. And then he slid off the tree and levitated to a nearby roof. And
wow.
he jumped off the house, landed on his head, but suffered no permanent injury.
Wow.
Okay. But remembered nothing of the incident. Scared. That's insane.
That's heavy. Why? I wonder if, okay, 2 things about this. Um, I would love if there was any follow-ups, like later on when these kids
Kids were
became,
older. Oh,
you know, but the
everybody
other
looked like
thing
little Ronnie
is,
Strickland to see if he
yeah,
were
yeah.
later.
Because there were multiple witnesses. That's crazy. But uh the other thing is the belt,
Yeah.
the weird belt. I've been rereading Where the Footprints, and
Uh-huh.
I'm on volume 2, and there's a whole section on weird belts being
Right.
seen on Bigfoot, aliens, all this stuff. So it's like that, right when you
Weird
said
belt.
that, oh, the belt, the belt.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's really bizarre. And that did take place in Riverside County, 1955.
that's a really good one. That's yeah, I'm making a note. That's one of the best I've heard. Okay, I'll keep it going. This is from the GCBRO website.
Mhm.
Uh, an account from Lake Elsinore, which is in Riverside County, California,
Mhm.
1960 to 1962. Um, I was about 4 or 5 years old, but remember this like it was yesterday. We lived on Grand Avenue with the Ortega Mountains behind our house. The bedroom my brother and I had was at the back of the house. It had a semi-flat roof, and I believe it was an add-on to the house. The room had many windows about 5 foot at the base and went to the ceiling about 8 feet. At night, I would see greenish glowing eyes looking into the window,
Ugh.
which would move from window to window. I remember the first few times I saw them, I would scream and they would disappear. But later, I would just lay there and watch them. They would look in for a while, going from one window to another, and then leave. Don't know if my brother saw them, have to check with him. Neighbor had chickens disappear at night, but could be
Oh.
other wild animals, multiple question marks. It was years later my cousins told me of the legend of the green-eyed monster in the Ortega Mountains while we
Oh.
were telling scary stories. When I told them of what I'd seen, they got real scared and stopped telling stories. The legend tells of hunters and campers being approached by a tall green-eyed monster. When shot at, would run off into the mountains. Other details I'd heard where it breathed real loud or heavy. Um, yeah, other sightings in this area, very rural. No outside lighting that I know of, just very large greenish glowing eyes. Moved from window to window for reasons unknown. There's a report on, oh my God, on my birthday, July 1st, 1999, on GCBRO, was within a few miles, 5 to 10 to the southwest of our house. Also, on another site I submitted this to, had a sighting report at Camp Pendleton, which is directly over the mountains southwest. And the legend that goes back, who knows how far, which some could be possible sightings.
That's
Yeah, that's a
crazy
good
and
one.
scary because it's one thing if you think you see glowing eyes in the window,
Yeah,
but if they start moving the different windows, you probably really see something.
yeah, and we've heard of the green-eyed Bigfoot a few times.
Right.
Not only red eyes and yellow eyes, but green
But
eyes.
green eyes.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, and then I got one from BFRO, and this one's from May 1979. And it took place behind or at the Desert Hot Spring condos on Indian Avenue. And this was a guy and his girlfriend in, I think he had a VW. Yes, he did. Okay, sorry. I don't know why that's important, but he did. All right. So a guy and his girlfriend, and he had to like run back. It's like 10 p.m. and he has to run back like to work or to like, I don't know, to close it up, to lock it up, I guess.
Yeah.
And so they pull down the road to go do this, and they turn in or whatever, and they're on the road, and in his headlights is this huge tan colored creature with flowing hair in his headlights, and he stopped and he froze and he flashed his high beams, and when he flashed his high beams, the creature took 2 steps backwards and was gone. And of course his girlfriend didn't see it because she couldn't dig her glasses out of her purse quick enough. I love that part.
Great.
But and he said that for years he was afraid to tell anybody about it. And he didn't even think of Bigfoot necessarily. He didn't think Bigfoot was in that area. He thought, they just didn't think about that. But then he came to find out that the locals called their Bigfoot, I guess, their creature like that, they called it Yucca Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's trippy.
That's scary late at night work stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's an old horror movie. Oh God, what is it? And it's like filmed around that area, and it was something about a Yucca monster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That sounds similar to that. Ooh, we gotta look that up.
Okay. They might have.
We gotta watch that. Okay, here's another one. This one's from The Complete Guide to Mysterious Beings by John Keel.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Wetzel was driving home in Riverside, California on Saturday night, November 8th, 1958. And he neared the point where North Main Street crosses the Santa Ana River. Something leapt in front of his car. It had a round, scarecrowish head, he said, like something out of Halloween. It wasn't human. It had a longer arm than anything I'd ever seen. When it saw me in the car, it reached all the way back to the windshield and began clawing at me. It didn't have any ears. The face was round. The eyes were shining like something fluorescent, and it had a protuberant mouth. It was scaly like leaves. Wetzel reached for the .22 pistol he carried in his car and stomped on the gas. The thing fell back from the car and it gurgled. The noise it made didn't sound human. I think I hit it. I heard something hit the pan under the car. There were long, sweeping scratches on his windshield, but nothing was found at the site. The next night, a 6-foot-tall black thing leapt out of the bushes near the Wetzel site and frightened another motorist. The Wetzel story was widely circulated by the wire services and has become a monster classic.
Riverside Monster.
I know. That's a wild one. Yeah, and that bridge I've walked on many times.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You may not have known about the account at that time.
No, I didn't. And I did have something weird happen to me out there one night that at that site, I swear to God, I was walking home. I used to go to a lot of punk shows when I lived out there, and I didn't drive. And this was before Uber or anything like that. And so I was walking home, and right before you get to that bridge that he's talking about where the Santa Ana River goes through, there's these long sidewalks that run right up against the edge of the woods that are by the river. And I was walking down those. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I started hearing like weird growling and stuff like that.
Oh, shit.
I swear to God. And then
that's never good drunk. You're probably drunk.
And it scared me so bad, but at first I thought I didn't know what it was, and it freaked me out, and I was really scared, and I kept walking, and in my head I think, oh, it's just a homeless person up back there being weird, because there was a lot of homeless, which maybe it was, but it never I've thought about it several times since then and been like, what was that, because it wasn't the normal. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the normal sounds you hear, but who knows? Yeah, I'm reading.
Insert now. Give me the surprise.
I am reading a book called A Casebook of Other Worldly Music by D. Scott Rogo, who we've been into.
Yes.
And
our new crush.
Our new obsession. So I just wanted to read one of the accounts out of that book. Okay, here's a good one. In the year 1845, Mr. Herwig, a German and a much esteemed musician who had for several years resided in Boston, Massachusetts, died suddenly in that city. I was then a young girl and knew him only through his high reputation and my own great enjoyment of his delightful performances on the violin in public concerts. The only personal association I ever had with him was that in the winter before his death, in returning to my home from that of a friend who was studying with me, I chanced for many weeks to meet Mr. Herwig almost daily on a certain part of Beacon Street. It seemed to be only an accident, but finally it became such a constant occurrence that he smiled on me kindly and gave me a respectful little bow, which I ventured as respectfully to return. The following autumn he died, as I have said, very suddenly, and his funeral took place on November 4th, 1845, in Trinity Church, then on Summer Street in Boston. It was a solemn and touching service attended by a crowd of musicians and other eminent citizens, for all mourned the loss of such an accomplished and valuable man. I was present with my sister, and in the midst of the services, there came to me a most unaccountable and inexpressible feeling that he might then and there at once rise from the coffin and appear in life again among us. Hardly knowing what I did, I caught my sister's hand, exclaiming almost aloud, "Oh, he must come to life again." So very earnestly that she looked at me in wonder and whispered, "Hush, hush." That evening, my mother, my two sisters, a friend, and myself, five of us in all, were sitting in our dining room, number 4 H Street, Boston, while my sister and I were describing the funeral. My sister had just told of my singular exclamation while there, and I was repeating the words when suddenly the room was filled with a burst of glorious music,
Oh,
such as none of us had ever heard. I saw a look of astonishment and even fear on every face, and in a sort of fright myself, I continued speaking incoherently when once more, after a slight pause, came a similar swell of harmony, which then died softly away. My sister and I at once rushed to the hall door, where was but a few steps from us, to discover if outside there were any music, but we heard not a sound save the hard drizzle of a dark rainy night. I then ran upstairs to the parlor over the dining room, where was only a Quaker lady reading. A piano was in that room, and though it was closed, I asked, "Has anyone been playing?" "No," she replied, "but I heard a strange burst of music." "What was it?" Now, let it be understood that as a family, we had never been superstitious, but on the contrary, had been educated to scoff at the idea of ghosts, omens, etc., so that none of us announced this occurrence as supernatural, but could only look at each other saying, "What was it?" The Quakeress, however, we found more excited than ourselves. She related the experience to her daughters, who were absent at the time, and they spent much time in perambulating the neighborhood to discover if there had been any music in the houses near ours, but it was distinctly proved that there had been none, nor had any been heard
wow.
from the street. In fact, what we heard seemed to be close around ourselves, as we each described it, and unlike any we had ever heard. It may seem strange that after so many years I should be able to describe so particularly this event, but I own it made a deep impression upon the minds of all the hearers. I have often narrated it and heard the others narrate it in exactly the same way, and my sister, the only one now living of that little company, will verify my description word for word. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is a really good one. It's dense. Yeah, the guy, you can see why this guy was such a respected researcher. He's got a lot of good cases in here. Yeah, it's exciting.
Nice.
Okay.
Do you want to
Yeah,
just order?
I'm really excited. There's one of my favorite shows growing up was Freddy's Nightmares. Uh it was they were continuing to cash in on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and at the time a lot of people didn't like it, but but I loved it. And yeah, it's just a cheesy horror movie show. It lasted 3 seasons. A lot of famous actors were in it, like Brad Pitt and a bunch of others before they were big actors, you know. But yeah, it's a great show. And the wonderful record company Terrorvision released a 3 LP set of all the musical cues of it. So I got that ordered Friday, and he sold out. So good for him.
Thanks for listening to our first bonus episode, and look for this every month. So now 2 episodes a month. Had a little bit of technical difficulty, had to cut a few things because I moved to the middle of nowhere. I now live in the Blue Ridge, in the mountains, and just trying to figure out the best times to record and internet connection and all that good stuff. But we are here, and we are researching, and we are still having fun. Thanks for listening.